Hello, Lely.
Hi there, Tanya.
How are you doing?
Good, very
Well,
good.
I know you've been learning Spanish for a long time. What can you tell me about that? About learning a foreign language?
A foreign language. Okay. Luckily, I spoke French beforehand, and so because Spanish is a Latin language, I was able to learn it fairly quickly. I did find when I first was immersed 24/7 in Spanish, my lips used to ache because I think in different languages we use different parts of the body. And I remember thinking, oh, Spanish people must be good kissers because their lips were so, their muscles were working so much. And then after I came to live in Spain in year 2000, and after a few years, the job that I started doing, they forgot to ask me if I could drive or not. And a few years into 6 months into the job, they said, oh, you do drive, don't you? And I was like, no. And they're like, oh, well, it's the job or the driving license. So I had to do my driving license and learn to drive in Spanish, which for me was just like, wow, because I thought I could get through life without driving. So I learnt a lot there, and it was in Andalusia, which has quite a strong accent. And my driving instructor was wonderful. He was wonderful, but he had these very colourful phrases, and he would say things like, he would look at me and say, ay, 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 hoy estamos más despistada que un pulpo en un garaje. And I'd be driving along going, ¿qué? ¿Qué estás diciendo, Paco? Or he'd say, arrímate por aquí. And I'd say, pero Paco, no entiendo este verbo. ¿Qué estás diciéndome? And things like that. But so it was a real learning experience, both the driving and the language and the colourful metaphors and everything. And yeah, and it's still continuing. You know, I feel like I'm fairly fluent. I'm not bilingual. I think if I worked and lived and did everything in Spanish, I would probably eventually become more bilingual. But
sure.
I live in a community where it's very mixed, and so I speak a lot of Spanglish, which is quite nice as well. And I suppose we're all becoming more global, so all the languages are mixing. And I actually quite like that. I really like sort of patois and the things that happen in texts, you know, like lots of Spanish friends, we say just the letter K, for K, Q-U-E.
Yes.
Instead of saying K, we just put K. Or maybe that's more between Spanglish friends. Yeah. So, yeah, I love languages. I think they're like rivers that show all the history and the culture, and that includes the modern street culture and the way that we're all evolving and changing and mixing and merging. So I think languages are beautiful for that. They really show that. And I'm not one of these people, you know, I know a lot of people get really upset about text language and email language and Americanisms coming into their language and different words, but I just think it's beautiful. I really like it. I like the fact that there are probably going to be more Arabic words and maybe even Senegalese words weaving their way into Spanish. And I love the fact that in London, where I used to live, it's so multicultural that there's all sorts of different Afro-Caribbean and all sorts of words just weaving their way in. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. Languages are always alive.
Very much so, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Lely.